Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. Let us start today's satsang with a prayer by Srimati Sapna Ganesh. This will be followed by the chanting of Muktaka trayam by Sri Nandakumarji.
Dakshinamurti Sarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Ramanacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Angikam Bhuvanam Yasya Vachikam Sarvavangmayam Aharyam Chandrataradi Tam Namah Satvikam Shivam Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana to everyone.
Ekam aksharam hृदि nirantaram bhasati swayam likyate katham हृदय कुहर मध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् जहमहमिति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता अवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो देहं मृण्मय जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तद्भावशुक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भाव कोऽहं भावयितो रतिः दृष्टात्मनिष्टात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुण
Namo Ramana. We will now have the chanting of Upadesa Saram by Uma Shripati.
Namo Ramana. Idamaham pada vikyamanvaham ahamileenake pelaya sattaya vigrahedriya pranaditama nahamekasat tajjadam yasat satvabhasika chitvavetara sattaya hichit chittaya hyaham ईश जीवयोर्वेषधीभिता सत्स्वभावतो वस्तु केवलं वेषहानत स्वात्मदर्शनम् ईशदर्शनं स्वात्मरूपत आत्मसंस्थिति स्वात्मदर्शनम् आत्मनिर्द्वयादात्मनिष्ठता ज्ञानवर्जिता अज्ञानहीन चेत् ज्ञानमस्ति किं ज्ञातुमन्तरं किं स्वरूपम् इत्यात्मदर्शने अव्यया भवा अपूर्णचित् सुखं बन्धमुक्त्यतीतं परं सुखं विन्दति जीवस्तु दैविक अहमपेतकं निजविभानकं महदिदं तपो रमणवागियम्. नमो रमण.
Namo Ramana. We will now have two songs from Ramananjali Sangeetam. One will be presented by Srimati V. Radha along with Vallabh Srinivasan. The other one will be presented by Revathi Shankar.
Namo Ramana to all. As everybody know, it is the Margari month and today is the 9th day of Margari. On the 9th day, we sing the Neelambari Ragam set to Mishra Chaputalam, and this is composed by Sri Muruganar Swami. The Tiruvembabai is composed by Sri Muruganar Swami, and the music is by Srimati Sulochana Natarajan. கண்டவானின்ற கணவருளான் காதல கண்டவானின்ற கணவருளான் காதல எண்ணவானின்ற இதயத்தான் என் தலைமேல் திண்ணமாயினியும் தீப்பிரவிசேராமே என் தலைமேல் திண்ணமாயினியும் தீப்பிரவிசேராமே வண்ணமா சூடிய வார்கடலால் வேங்கடன் வண்ணமா சூடிய வார்கடலால் வாரிதி சூழ் வண்ணவானின்ற பல மாண்பினான் கடைந்து எண்ணவரின்ற விழுப்புகழான் வேங்கடவன் விண்ணவரின்ற விழுப்புகழான் வேங்கடவன் பண்ணவரின்ற புகழ் பாடி பணித்தடம் பாய்ந்து பண்ணவாய் நின்ற புகழ் பாடி பணித்தடம் பாய்ந்து அண்ணலார்க்கு அன்பாகி ஆடேலோர் pa ma ga ma. Ga ma pa ni da ni pa da da pa ma ga ma. Sa pa ma ga sa da pa ma ga sa sa ni pa ma ga sa ma ga pa ma ni pa sa. Ma ga pa sa ni pa ma ga sa ni pa. அண்ணலாக்கு அன்பாகி ஆடேலோர் எம்பாவா. நமோ ரமண.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. I will be singing a song written by Sadhum Swami from the Ramana Yempavai. Like Muruganar Swami's Ramana Tiruvambavai, Sadhum Swami has also written 21 songs on Bhagavan for the Margazhi month. This is called Ramana Yempavai. This particular song, Sadhum Swami says, through many years, through generations and generations, through many yugas, this truth has not been revealed to many people. But when Arunachala Ramana came onto this earth, he revealed this truth to all the people around us, around him. He threw open this truth to all of us so that we will wake up. We will wake up from the delusion, from the maya, from the illusion of the world and this body being me. All the illusions are broken when this truth is revealed to us. This truth is realized by us. Let us not waste more time by going back to sleep, by going back thinking that we are this form, this name. The crows, the cocks are saying whatever the Vedas are declaring. The cocks are declaring this. These Vedas are telling the truth. Wake up, my dear girl, wake up. Let us not get back to this duality of dukkha and sukha. Dukkha and sukha. Let us not waste any more time. Let us not waste even a single moment. And let us all wake up, says Sadhum Swami. Nari veedahamal, nari veedahamal, nadelor empavai. Nari veedahamal, nadelor empavai. அணுவும் நாழி வீடாமல் நாடேலோர் எம்பாவாய். அணுவும் நாழி வீடாமல் நாடேலோர் எம்பாவாய். ஊழிதோரூழி உழைத்தும் அணுகவோடா ஆழியருளால் அருணாச்சல ரமணன். ஊழிதோரூழி உழைத்தும் அணுகவோடா ஆழியருளால் அருணாச்சல ரமணன். வாழி தனதருளால் வந்திவ் அவனியில் நம் ஊழும் அறுக்கும் உயர் திருநாளுற்றது. வாழி தனதருளால் வந்திவ் அவனியில் நம் ஊழும் அறுக்கும் உயர் திருநாளுற்றது. அருள் கோழி மறையொலியார் கூவினது கேளாயோ. அருள் கோழி மறையொலியார் கூவினது கேளாயோ. நாழி வீடாமல் அணுவும் நாழி வீணாமல் நாடேலோர் எம்பாவாய். தோழி எழுந்திராய் துக்க சுக தொந்தமேனும் பாழின் உறக்க படுக்கை துறந்து. தோழி எழுந்திராய் துக்க சுக தொந்தமேனும் பாழின் உறக்க படுக்கை துறந்து. அணுவும் நாழி வீணாமல் அணுவும் நாழி வீணாமல் நாடேலோர் எம்பாவாய். அணுவும் நாழி வீணாமல் நாடேலோர் எம்பாவாய். Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing and reading by Sri Nandakumarji from the book Resplendent Sun.
Namo Ramana. In this, our book reading segment, we have commenced reading from Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, The Resplendent Sun, Angles of Vision by our founder president, Sri A.R. Natarajanji. We have already seen in the introductory remarks that the author is saying that this is a compilation of articles from that wonderful magazine called of which Swami Rajeshwarananda was the editor, and many eminent contributions, many eminent writers of that time, great ones of that time, have contributed, and those contributions have been collected here. And we are in our second article, All Enveloping Light. This follows the Who Are You, Friend by Sri Swami Shivananda, Rishikesh, Swami Shivananda Ashram. This article is All Enveloping Light, Walter A. Kears. The small introduction that we can have to the author is that he is a Advaitic teacher of Netherlands who has had Bhagavan Sri Ramana, the direct darshan in the 1950s, and he has been greatly influenced by Bhagavan's direct presence, which has touched him. And this article is about that Bhagavan's presence as all enveloping light. That is the article's title, All Enveloping Light by Walter A. Kears. Sri Ramana Maharshi, the indescribable. I am asking myself, what has Bhagavan meant to me? And what does he still mean to me? And I find that it is impossible to give a neat answer to this question. The first thing perhaps is that he opened my heart. He opened my heart immediately when I saw him, even from a distance. I recognized that this was what I had been looking for. But when I say this was radiating, all penetrating and all overthrowing love, striking me with the power of lightning, I know that only those who had the same experience will know what I mean. To anybody else, this is verbiage, at best creating an image of someone very magnificent. Well, Sri Ramana Maharshi was the unimaginable and therefore the indescribable. In literature all over the world, one finds magnificent descriptions of sorrow. But who can describe happiness? Happiness is a state without ego and therefore without someone in it to describe it or even to remember it. What we remember is its afterglow, its reflection in feeling and body, not the moment when we were present as happiness itself, as happiness only. Ramana Maharshi is not the frail, old body that I saw reclining on a chair, but the unimaginable egolessness, pure radiance. And the body, however much we may have loved its appearance, was merely like a glittering diamond, reflecting the light that he really was. So he has visited in 1950, by which time Bhagavan has moved into the middle part of the suffering from cancer. I did not understand all this when I first arrived. That is what he finds as Bhagavan's all-enveloping presence. He did not understand it when he first arrived. To me, he was something like a divine person, and I was inclined to compare him with Jesus or the Buddha. But Jesus or the Buddha were images in my head, formed on the basis of the belief in which I had been brought up, and on stories heard and read later on. And Sri Ramana Maharshi, from the first second I saw him, was anything but an image in my head. He was a bomb, exploding the myth of my life until then, within a few minutes and without a word. But Jesus or the Buddha were images in my head, formed on the basis of the belief in which I had been brought up, on the stories heard and read later on. And Sri Ramana Maharshi, from the first second I saw him, was anything but an image in my head. He was a bomb, exploding the myth of my life until then, within a few minutes and without a word. New color, new meaning to Who Am I Enquiry. We find this even now when we go to the ashram. Many of the people who practice self-enquiry, when we sit in front of the Samadhi shrine and practice, there is a natural new gleam to the practice. New color, new meaning to Who Am I Enquiry. Is famous to some notorious question, who am I? Immediately got a totally new color. For several years at home, I had been meditating on it, and it had something of a mystical, yogic and philosophical ring about it. Now it turned into, who on earth do you think you are? That you think that you should be so important as to cultivate a garden full of problems and questions. See how he coins the Who Am I Enquiry, how it touches him. To him the question appears like this: who do you think you are that you have cultivated so many problems? Who on earth do you think you are that you should be so important as to cultivate a garden full of problems and questions? The question took this form in a sphere of utter astonishment. How, boy, tell me, have you been so misled as to think that you or your ego had any importance? Instead of seeing that an ego is a mere stupidity or the belief in a fantasy, you have been cherishing it and even cultivating it by feeding it with important questions and problems. Your life until now was led by the belief in something totally imaginary. Again, there was no condemnation in this. It was a discovery, something revealed to me, suddenly leaving me in utter amazement. Perhaps that is what tricked it. It could be triggered it, but tricked it also has a meaning. The tricked it means spruced up. The dictionary meaning is spruced up. His Obviously, the tricked it is the right word here, because his enquiry was already on and the darshan from Bhagavan has spruced it up. So the word used here is appropriate. He says, perhaps that is what tricked it, spruced it up. His mere presence revealed to me how utterly stupid I had been until now. That it was love which revealed it, not the criticizing, Father knows better attitude that we know all too well. My darkness was revealed by the mere confrontation with light, the light that did not condemn me or wish to change me, but accepted and loved me totally and unconditionally. Light, as I understood later, that saw me as nothing but light. In the Jnani's vision, there is nothing but light. That is the best help you can do to anyone, says Bhagavan. All questions stand solved. The moment the question, who am I, is solved, when the light that we are and have always been is suddenly recognized in all perceptions, in the ones usually called good, no more than in the ones usually called bad, in the perceptions usually called the world, and in the perceptions called the ego. Means, once the who am I is dissolved, these differences vanish and all perceptions start dancing to the same tune. Self-realization is never found by attempts to change the person, the ego that we are not. It dawns the moment it is made possible, and that is when there is full realization of the fact that I am no ego and I have no ego. I am that unimaginable something in which all things, including the thought that I am a person, arise, and which remains over after such perceived thoughts or feelings or sensorial perceptions have dissolved into it. He is describing his own realization experience. I'll read that again. Self-realization is never found by attempts to change the person, the ego that we are not. It dawns the moment it is made possible, and that is when there is full realization of the fact that I am no ego and I have no ego. I am that unimaginable something in which all things, including the thought I am a person, arise, and which remains over after such perceived thoughts or feelings or sensorial perceptions have dissolved into it. But we may, for instance, direct our attention to what remains over when thoughts, feelings, and sensory perceptions have disappeared. Only that which is always here is entitled to that name, the name I. Only that which is ever present, which is always here, is entitled to the name I. Thoughts and feelings and perceptions leave us as fast as they have come. Therefore, we can never be anything perceived. We are that which remains over when nothing is perceived but the presence that we are and in which all perceptions arise. We are that which remains over when nothing is perceived but the presence that we are and in which all perceptions arise. Depth of the body and the mind. The question, who am I, helps us to get disentangled from the ever so obvious. When we face this question, one day the trap will release us. But face it, we must. The question, who am I, helps us to get disentangled from the ever so obvious. When we face this question, one day the trap will release us. But face it, we must. You as an ego are born afresh infinite times every day. But there is no reality and no permanency in you. And only the telephone needs to ring to wipe out the I thought or the I feeling. And indeed, in reality, you do not exist other than an imaginary image in your own head. In reality, you were never born. To realize all that requires courage, and lots of it, if only because it goes straight against the common sense and accepted truths and respectability. He says, every moment we are born, but the moment the idam calls us, we forget that we are the ever-present I, and we are really the ever-present I. But what Sri Ramana Maharshi, the radiant master, but what Sri Ramana Maharshi, the radiant master, stands for the death of you as a body and you as a mind. He or his words propagate the total disappearance of everything you call I and at all levels. When it is seen that every perception, sensorial or mental, is nothing but a movement in consciousness, in light, then from that moment on, every perception chants the glory of this clarity, just as one can see a wave as a song of the sea. Here the writer is describing Sahaja Samadhi. Earlier, he was describing his experience of self-realization, and with repeated merger in the self, how he has come to Sahaja, he is describing. So let me read that part again. What Sri Ramana Maharshi, the radiant master, stands for is the death of you as a body and you as a mind. He or his words propagate the total disappearance of everything you call I and at all levels. Here on, he says how the Sahaja Samadhi works. When it is seen that every perception, sensorial or mental, is nothing but a movement in consciousness in light. So, the movement in consciousness in light is the all-enveloping light is always held. The I is always going on. So as Bhagavan says, even though the body was speaking, the body was writing, the I never went away. It continued like a spurana, like a Shruti note in the music. That is Sahaja Samadhi. That is what the writer is telling here. When it is seen that every perception, every bodily activity, every sensorial or mental activity is nothing but a movement in consciousness. It is all this Purana. I. So though in others' perception his hand is moving, to him it is all that one movement of light. Is nothing but a movement in consciousness, in light. Then from that moment on, every perception chants the glory of his clarity. Glory of this clarity. Just as one can see a wave as a song of the sea. So every action, every movement, it is a glory of that Bhagavan. The Bhagavan who is as Purana here. Every wave is a beautiful song of the whole sea. It is not apart from the sea. The experience of the sea never goes away. So the wave can be there without the experience of the self being lost. That is what he is describing in that paragraph. What Bhagavan calls as Sahaja Nirvikalpa Samadhi. The discovery. When I arrived regarding myself as a poor man in need of help, Sri Ramana Maharshi revealed to me that I was more than a millionaire and the source of all things. Not only was he a millionaire, but it is from him that everything was coming. Nor has Sri Ramana Maharshi asked anything from me, not even my love or respect. It was his mere presence that uncovered or unleashed in me what cannot be described by words, such as love or respect. It went deeper than the deepest feeling. My meeting with him was in no way a matter of giving or receiving, even though for a long time I thought so, that he had given me his love, I had given him my heart. It was the naked, radiant confrontation of illusion and truth. The meeting with Bhagavan, it was the naked, radiant confrontation of illusion and truth, in which confrontation of illusion could not stand up. It was wiped away, and not because he wanted it. He wanted nothing and accepted me as I was. He did not wish to change me, but he saw me as I really was, a whirlpool of light in an ocean of light. I'll just read the last paragraph. My meeting with him was in no way a matter of giving or receiving, even though for a long time I thought so. He had given me his love, I had given him my heart. It was the naked, radiant confrontation of illusion and truth, in which the confrontation of illusion could not stand up. It was wiped away, not because he wanted it. He wanted nothing and accepted me as I was. He did not wish to change me, but he saw me as I really was. What does the jnani do? He sees everyone as the true light. What he says to that Maharani, how to see God in everyone? To see the consciousness within, purged of all thoughts, is felt as God in everyone. He did not wish to change me, but he saw me as I really was, a whirlpool of light in an ocean of light. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We will now have a self-enquiry session led by Sri Nandakumarji.
Namo Ramana. I'm standing in for Dilipji prayer. So we'll be led by Bhagavan's words. We'll take a talk at random. We'll go through it for 5 minutes or so, and then we can sit for the practice of Atma Ucharan. We are in talk number 263. Talk number 263, 20th October 1936. Dr. Syed, he is a professor from Allahabad University, I think. Dr. Syed, Shri Bhagavan says that the heart is the self. Psychology has it that malice, envy, jealousy, and all passions have their seat in the heart. How are these two statements to be reconciled? Bhagavan, the whole cosmos is contained in one pinhole in the heart. This is what Walter Keir says, that he showed that I am the source of everything. You go into that pinhole with self-attention, then everything in triads and dyads are in your hands, are within you. When you go through that pinhole in the heart with self-attention, then the whole creation is there. The whole cosmos is contained in the pinhole in the heart. These passions are part of the cosmos. They are avidya, ignorance, devotee. How did avidya arise? How did avidya arise? Bhagavan, avidya is like Maya. She who is not is Maya. Ya ma, says Bhagavan. Ya ma means that which is not. To Bhagavan, Maya is that which is not. This is the rarest of rare, even in Advaitic teachings. Advaitic teachings usually take the support of Maya to explain creation. But Bhagavan says, only if you identify with the body does the creation arise. And it requires an explanation how it came about. But if you go to the source from where you came, you don't even identify with the body, take the first thought, then where is the world? It doesn't need a Maya explanation. That is the beauty of Bhagavan's teachings, that the support of Maya is also not required in Bhagavan's teachings. Avidya is like Maya. She who is not is Maya. Similarly, that which is not is ignorance. Therefore, the question does not arise. Nevertheless, the question is asked. Then ask, whose is avidya? Whose is? So Bhagavan's teaching is ask. You must be there. Somebody for whom the ignorance is there. Whose is the avidya? Go to self-attention. Avidya vanishes. Avidya is ignorance. It implies subject and object. Become the subject and there will be no object. Bhagavan says just self-abidance, self-attention, where nothing objective can touch that peace. Nothing objective can touch that ananda. That ananda is self-luminous, self-corrective, self-sustained. It does not need the support from anything. Devotee, what is avidya? Bhagavan, it is ignorance of the self. Who is ignorant of the self? The self must be ignorant of the self. Are there two selves? So it resolves to the same question, that are there two selves? This is the beauty of Bhagavan's teachings, that in self-attention, Bhagavan says in உள்ளது 40, இரட்டைகள் முப்பொடிகள் என்றும் ஒன்று பற்றி இருப்பவாம் அவ்வொன்றேதென்று கருத்தினுள் கண்டால் கழலும் அவை. So the dyads and triads of creation, the good and the bad, the cause and the effect, all the dyads and the triads, the seer seeing seen, the knower knowing known, all of them hold on to one and then arise. If you inquire for whom is the dyad and triad, then the dyads and triads fall away. The entire creation falls away in self-attention. That is the beauty of Bhagavan's teaching. Any trouble you have, self-enquiry will take you beyond that. Self-enquiry is the one astram, the brahmastram, against which nothing objective can stand. Therefore, let me read that one question again. What is, whose is the avidya? Avidya is ignorance. It means subject and object. Become the subject. How to become the subject? By inquiry, who am I? Only if you put attention, the object is there. So turn that attention onto yourself. It implies subject and object. Become the subject. It is even better to say, be the subject. You see, Bhagavan is using become because we have wrongly identified with the objective body. The three shariras of Stula, Sukshma and Karana we have identified with. Therefore, Bhagavan is saying become the subject. But it is actually be. You are already that subject. Be the subject. Be the subject. Then there will be no object. This is what is the content of the 36th verse of உள்ளது 40 also. நாம் உடலென் ரெண்டின் அல்ல நாம் அதுவென் ரெண்டும் அது நாம் அதுவாய் நிற்பதற்கு நற்றுணையே. நாம் அதுவன் ரெண்டும் அதே நான் மனிதன் என்றெனுமோ நாம் அதுவாய் நிற்கும் அதனால், says Bhagavan. Only when you say I am the body, then you need, how did the world came? How did the world come? You need an explanation. It came due to Maya in the self. Whereas if we don't rise as the I, then that explanation for the world is not required. What is avidya? Avidya is ignorance of the self. Who is ignorant of the self? The self must be ignorant of the self. Are there two selves? There are no two selves. There is only one self. This Purana, which also quietens down on holding and asking nothing. And that is the Brahmastram Bhagavan has given us. No object can disturb the one who is self-attentive. This is the great blessing of Bhagavan that we have received. With his grace, let us sit in Atma-vicharam for the next 10 minutes. Revathi ma, you will set the time for us. Thank you. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We will now have a sharing by Sri Venkatesh Deshpande.
Oh. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviram Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dhyanamoolam Gurur Murti Pujamulam Gurur Padam Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam Mokshamulam Guru Kripa. Namo Ramana. We are doing Manana on Atma Bodha, and we had done Manana on the verse number 5. So I thought we'll do a quick recap on the 4th, 5th, and then we'll go to the 6th verse. The 4th verse says the Atman appears to be limited because of ignorance. When that ignorance is destroyed verily, the Atman alone shines by itself, as does the sun when the cloud passes away. So what it says is ignorance creates the body, the mind and the intellect. They project the world of manifold perceptions, emotions and thoughts upon the non-dual Atman. When you destroy your ignorance, you can go beyond your equipments and experience the Atman. The Atman exists at all times, even as you declare it is not there. The sun shines even when a cloud is said to be covering it. In fact, when you declare that there is no sun, you say so only with the help of the sunlight, which enables you to see the cloud covering it. Similarly, when an atheist declares there is no God, the very capacity in him which enables him to declare the non-existence of God is God. That was the verse number 4. The verse number 5 was the practice of knowledge thoroughly purifies the ignorance-stained self, and the knowledge itself disappears as kataka nut powder in water. So basically what it says is you create your own individuality by constantly thinking I'm the body, I'm the mind, and I'm the intellect. If these processes substituted with a thought that I am the Supreme Self, you begin to experience the divinity within you. In meditation, your thought is held in a single point, focus upon the self. Similarly, the self is covered by your thoughts. To discover the self, all thoughts have to be removed. In meditation, your thoughts are gone, except that the one thought of the self. This last thought, even when maintained in single-pointed concentration, disappears by itself. What remains is the Supreme Self. That is the verse number 5. Let's do Manana on verse number 6 today. And I request Sapna to kindly chant that verse number 6, please.
Yes, sir. Samsara swapna tulya hi ragadveshadi sankulaha swakale satyavat bhati prabodhe satta satbhavet. Samsara swapna tulya hi ragadveshadi sankulaha स्वकाले सत्यवत् भाति प्रबोधे सत्ता सत् bhavet. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sapna. The world full of attachments, aversions, etc. is verily like a dream. As long as it exists, it appears to be real, but it becomes unreal when one is awake to self-realization. I'll read that again. The world full of attachments, aversions, etc. is verily like a dream. As long as it exists, it appears to be real, but it becomes unreal when one is awake to self-realization. Samsara etymologically means that which comes and goes, appears and disappears, is born and is dead. Samsara signifies change, the death of a previous condition and the birth of a new condition. From moment to moment, you experience changes at all levels of your personality. Your body, mind, and intellect keep on changing. So do perceptions, emotions, and thoughts. The entire realm of changes occurring in these equipments and their experiences constitute samsara. I'll read that paragraph, very, very important for each one of us. Your body, mind, and intellect keep on changing. So do your perceptions, emotions, and thoughts. The entire realm of changes occurring in these equipments and their experience constitute samsara. The world experience in the waking state of consciousness is compared to a dream. Tulya means like. The world is said to be like a dream. Similarly, like a dream. Similarity should not be misconstrued as congruity. In similes and metaphors, there is usually one or two aspects of similarities between the objects of comparison. The comparable aspects in these similes are attachments, aversion, etc. exist in both the waking and the dream states of consciousness. We understand that attachments, aversions, so if you are in your dream state, there are dream attachments, there are dream aversions, it exists there. And in the waking, we think that all these attachments and aversions are true, and the dream states of consciousness. As long as the dream lasts, this is a very important thing that we need to do manana on law. As long as the dream lasts, the dreamer believes the world alone to be real. When the dreamer wakes up to the higher plane of consciousness, namely the waking state, the waker realizes the unreality of the dream world. So whenever we have a beautiful dream, we may be flying an F-16 plane, or we may be getting Santa Claus's Christmas gifts. It could be anything that we may be dreaming about. But the moment you wake up to that, in the morning, what happens? When you wake up to that, you realize, oh, that was just a dream. There's nothing real. You can just drop it in a second. Some dreams are a little more powerful. They stay on for a little longer. But finally you say it was just a dream. It was not real. Similarly, as long as the waking state of consciousness lasts, the waker believes the waking world alone to be real. When the waker awakens to a higher plane of consciousness, namely self-realization, the self-realized one recognizes the illusory nature of the waking world. So this is what self-enquiry does. When you keep on, so what happens when you wake up? You believe you are this body, mind, intellect, and you see this world of projections. You see all these objects, and you believe this is all true. But then as you keep doing self-enquiry, what happens? Every thought that you inquire into, the thought quietens and quietens and quietens, and antarkarana shuddhi happens, and the outwardness stops. When the outwardness stops, the you experience the self within. When you experience the self, what is being said here is this: the self-realized one recognizes the illusory nature of the waking world, because what happens is the world is continuously changing. Everything is changing. First of all, when you identify yourself with the world, then as you keep doing neti neti and come to the body, you realize the body itself is changing. Forget about the world. Forget about all your friends and relatives and all the assets and all the things that are happening around the world. Those are changing, obviously. But then you come to a point when you realize that you, who's actually watching all this through all the senses, is also continuously changing. So there must be something which is not changing in this changing. So once you realize that, the self-realized one recognizes the illusory nature of the waking. So Brahman Satyam Jagat Mithya. It is there, but not there. That's what is being spoken of. The spiritual masters who have thus awakened to self-realization unrelentlessly declare the truth. So Brahman Satyam Jagat Mithya, which means Brahman alone is real and the world is myth. Why is this important? Why can't we just stay with the illusory world? Why can't we? See, when we are in satsang, we are trying to understand the truth. The truth, it always is. It's not that the truth will be there sometime, it won't be there sometime. The truth always is. So if the truth always is, then if something is there right now and changing so fast, then that's not the truth. It is false. It's ignorance. It's like when you're walking in the desert, you think there's water out there, but there's no water. When you reach the point, it is not. But at that point, when you were seeing that illusion, it looked very real. You thought, oh, there is water out there, and if I get to that point, there'll be water. But actually, when you get there in the desert, there's no water. Why? Because it's just an illusion. So when you realize that, when you wake up to this fact that what you were thinking was water is actually not water, then what happens to the water? The unreal vanishes, and the what realize that there was no water at all. Exactly the same thing is happening here. Bhagavan says, the great ones say that important thing is you have to inquire. So the spiritual masters say that Brahman Satyam Jagat Mithya. You cannot appreciate the illusory nature of this world, much less accept it, unless you gain the final experience of the Supreme Self. The emphasis, therefore, is on the realization of the Self first, and not on the rejection of the existing world. How many things can you reject? Oh, I will reject that war is happening in Ukraine, I can reject that, I can reject this, everything. Then when you come to your family, you say, oh, I'll reject my family. Oh no, I can't reject my wife, I can't reject my child, I can't do that. So Bhagavan says, how many things you'll keep on rejecting? So how many things you'll keep on doing neti, neti, neti? So he says that, therefore it is on the realization of the self first, that realize who you are. Once you know your reality, you will know the reality of everything. Aham aham iti sakshat atma rupena bhati. That's what Bhagavan says. Important thing is go in and understand the I that is within you, and then and not on the rejection of the existing world. As long as you experience this world, it will be absurd and detrimental to your well-being to consider it illusory. This world has to be accepted for the time being as real. Even as you experience the world, you must seek the reality underlying it. What is the reality underlying it? If you're seeing a snake, is it a snake or is it a rope? You don't know it's a rope. You are seeing the snake. But once you put a light on it, realize, the snake was never there. It was always the rope. So that's important thing that Bhagavan is trying to say. The world, you must seek the reality. You must always seek what is real. That is most important. Underlying it. As you progress in seeking the unreality of this world will reveal itself. As you progress in seeking, the unreality of this world will reveal itself. That means if you want to go from the lower mind to the higher mind, you're not going to keep rejecting the lower mind. You will go to the higher mind. Once you go to the higher mind of love, compassion, automatically the lower mind will vanish. So that's the way it is here also. The important thing is if the world is real to you, keep doing self-enquiry. As you keep doing self-enquiry, what happens? The reality of this untrue world will be known, and your reality will be known, which is the reality of everything, which is the consciousness. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing by Sri Dr. Kalarani Rengasamy on Jnana Vicharappadalam.
ஓம் நமோ பகவதே ஸ்ரீ ரமணாய. அருணாச்சலமென அகமே நினைப்பவர் அகத்தை வேறறுப்பாய் அருணாச்சலம். Namo Ramana to all. With the abundance grace of Bhagavan, we are meditating on Devi Kalotra Jnana Vicharappadalam, very graciously given to us by Bhagavan in Tamil. And in the last satsang we saw Parameshwaran saying to Parvati Devi, I am the Srishti Karta for all the worldly objects with various Namarupa. In the Saracharangatku, Isan Nan. I am not only the mother and father of these worldly objects, but also the father of the father. Tandaikku Tandai. Bhagavan beautifully says, Sadhavas who are determined to have mukti alone and nothing else, who are called mumukshus, must do dhyana of that vastu which does not have any identity like Namarupa. Brihanar sings, ஒரு உருவும் ஒரு பெயரும் ஒன்றும் இல்லாருக்கு ஆயிரம் திருநாமம் பாடி நாம் தெல்லேலும் கொட்டோமே. The Swayam Prakasha Vastu, which does not have any Namarupa, we assign 1,000 names and sing in praise of him. In the next stanza, Parameswaran says, Hey Parvati, I am the person to whom pujas are performed. Yan Pujiyan. The holy yajnas like Somayaga, Vajpayaga are all performed for me alone. These pujas and yajnas are performed by the Shrishtikarta Brahma, all devas, Ramba, Urvashi, Menaka and all. The Aswamedha Yaga, Rajasuya Yaga, which are performed by great kings on the earth, is also in my name alone. Brahman, Munnam, Devar, Penum, Aramadar, Narar, Iyakar, Kandarvar, Nagar, Nirayalum, Echam, Palavalum, Ennaye, Archippar, Adum, Ari. And the next stanza, Bhagavan says, moreover, by way of doing tapas, dana, and varied rituals, people do them keeping me alone in their mind. Arum tavangal, danam, anega vidattalum, yarum ennaye archippar. By saying so, Bhagavan insists that tapas has to be performed not with any specific object, like fulfilling one's desire. Instead, it should be performed by realizing, Paravastu alone. Kumbhakarna did tapas. And when Brahma got pleased and asked Kumbhakarna what he wanted, Kumbhakarna said, I want Nitratvam instead of Nirandratvam. His tongue slipped by asking the boon. If it is performed for realizing God alone, this type of trouble would not have occurred. Next is Dhanam. Dhanam must also be given in the name of Paravastu and not with the intention of getting any punya. If it is done with such an intention, then we are sure to have rebirth to enjoy the good deeds of that punya. So Bhagavan says, Dhanam and other social activities like constructing temples, digging ponds, tanks for the society, establishing food chowdhuries, and must also be done keeping in mind Ishvara alone. It has to be done in the name of Parameshwara. Hey Parvati, all objectives, both movable as well as immovable, all it is done not aloof of me. There is nothing other than me. And Paranda Saravara Bhudangal Chandula Matri Ellam Uruvanam Yare. Everything is me alone. I am the only one in whatever is seen. So, change your drishya into jnana and you can see the Purana Vastu. When drishya is changed from worldly objectives, as such, the whole world made of Panchabhuta will be realized as Jnana Swarupa. It will blossom as Atma Vastu. Guruvanam Yane Una. Even in Upadesa Undiyar, Bhagavan beautifully says, Yennuriyavum Irai Uruvamena Enni Valipadal Undipara. Ya Isanar Pusanai Undipara. The same Thirumular, a great poet in Tamil, he also says, Thane Tisayodu Devarumai Nirkum. Thane Udaluyir Tattuvamai Nirkum. Thane Kadal Malai Adiyumai Nirkum. Thane Ulagil Talaivanumame. Who is the chief of all Vastu? He who is in the all directions. He who is Devas, who is the body, who is the consciousness, he who is the sea, mountain, and all others is Paravastu. So, do dhyana of that Vastu who will realize that there is no second, there is only one, and that is Paramasiva, and that is Paravastu. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing of Ramana Chatvarimshat by Sri Ujwal Jagadeesh.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. We have been meditating on the verses of Ramana Chatvarimshat written by Ganapati Muni, and these verses were compiled and the title Ramana Chatvarimshat was given by Bhagavan Sri Ramana himself. And we are meditating on the 22nd verse of Ramana Chatvarimshat. Antaryascha bahirvitutatimiram jyotirmayam shashvatam sthanam prapya virajate vinamatam ajnanamunmulayan pashyan vishwamapida mullasati yo vishwasya pare paraha Tasmai Shri Ramanaya Loka Gurave Shokasya Hantre Namaha Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha Antaranga Bahirangada Timira Haripa Shashvata Jyotiya Nelayali Nelasi Virajisi Namipara Ajnanavanirmulisuta Vishwavanodi Ullasa Dinalidarusaha Vishwakkemiridava ಶ್ರೀರಮಣನಿಗೆ ಲೋಕ ಗುರುವಿಗೆ ಶೋಕನಾಶಕನಿಗೆ ನಮನ. ರಮಣನಿಗೆ ಲೋಕ ಗುರುವಿಗೆ ನಮನ. ರಮಣನಿಗೆ ಲೋಕ ಗುರುವಿಗೆ ನಮನ. ಗುರುವಿಗೆ ನಮನ. ಗುರುವಿಗೆ ನಮನ. This verse, which is at the heart of the Ramana Chatvarimshat, seems to be very, very important, because Ramana himself, in his handwriting, while writing this Ramana Chatvarimshat, write this verse as the first verse, as the Mangala Stuti, or the invocatory verse to Ramana Chatvarimshat. And we have also heard Swamiji's sadhus from Chinmaya Mission chanting this verse as the first verse, as the prayer before starting any Jnana Yagna. Because what is Jnana? Jnana is compared to light, and Ajnana is darkness. What is this darkness? What is this Ajnana? Why are we afraid of this darkness? The darkness of Ajnana is that we do not know something. We do not know what is going to happen. That's why we are afraid of Ajnana. We are afraid of something which we do not know. And Ramana says, of all the great fears, the greatest of all fears is the fear of death. We are absolutely afraid of death because we do not know what happens when we die. That is the darkness of Ajnana, which is creating fear, worry, and all these series of thoughts within us. And Jnana is that light which destroys this Ajnana, brings clarity and brings joy, and takes away all the thoughts of fear and worry and anxiety, but fills us with an underlying eternal peace. That is Jnana. And Ganapati Muni says, O Ramana, you are that light, ever abiding in that state of pure Jnana, pure light, that you destroy the Ajnana Andhakara of those devotees who surrender to you, who come and pay their obeisance to you. You destroy their Ajnana Andhakara, filling them with the light of love and knowledge. Ramana is that light, and we hear of the stories, anecdotes, and experiences of great devotees who have come to Bhagavan, and they have written and expressed their experience of seeing Ramana as the light. And one such great devotee was Professor K. Swaminathan. Professor K. Swaminathan got to know about Ramana quite early in 1927. But he just felt he was not interested in a jnani, a master who is simply sitting and not doing anything. And he was inspired by the life of Gandhiji. And he thought one should be like Gandhiji, who is working for our country day and night, and who is going around to all the places in our country, fighting this struggle for our freedom. And he was inspired by Gandhiji, and he was a devotee of Gandhiji. And later, the life unfolded in a way that he was very, very disappointed, and he was very dejected. So he wanted some solace. So one of his relatives suggested that why don't you take some lessons on Brahma Sutra, the scriptures. It may give you some peace of mind, some distractions from the happenings of the world. He took that suggestion and started learning from a Sanskrit Pandit in Bangalore about the Brahma Sutras. And while explaining the Brahma Sutras, K. Swaminathan started understanding the greatness of a jnani like Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. And while explaining these Brahma Sutras, the Vedantas, and explaining the state of a great jnani, that Sanskrit Pandit would give example of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, who is ever abiding in that essence of these sutras, one who is ever abiding in that light which is called Brahman by the Vedas and the Shastras. And later, after a few days, to his college, he was working as an English professor. Grand Duff, who had seen Bhagavan Ramana, came to his college, and while he was spending the time with him for 1 week, Grand Duff asked, "Have you seen Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi?" And K. Swaminathan replied, "No," but he was ashamed to know that this Grand Duff who has come from far away has known the glory of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, and he has gone and seen him. But although Bhagavan is so close to me, easily approachable, I have not been able to do that. So he decided that, yes, I should go and see this great person who is abiding at Arunachala. And he had Professor K. Swaminathan, who was a great lover of English literature, and he was also a great scholar in Tamil. So he could understand the poetry of Muruganar, and he used to rejoice in those poetry. Bhagavan himself says these poetry, the Ramana Sannidhi Murai, is equal to Tiruvachakam, written by Manikyavachakar. Such was the poetical beauty of Muruganar Swami. And K. Swaminathan thought, who is that person who has inspired such poetry in Muruganar, such beautiful poetry? I think that person who has inspired this should surely be a great personality. And he was filled with the desire to see that inspiring personality, Bhagavan Ramana. And when he approached with this desire to his Sanskrit Pandit teacher, he told, be very, very careful, because if you go to Bhagavan Ramana, you may be swept off and you may be taken over by his spiritual presence. Take something which is bonding, take some attachments with you so that you are not swept away with that spiritual force called Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. So, K. Swaminathan, when he planned his visit to Ramana's ashram, he took his wife and 2 students, one old student and one current student of his, and they visited Bhagavan Ramana. And Professor K. Swaminathan, he describes that in the presence of Bhagavan Ramana, nothing was taken away. Everything that surrounded him was intact, but everything shined in the new light. He could see that each one of his relationships, each one of his learnings, each literature, poems that he had learned, they shined with a new light. And that light was none other than Bhagavan Ramana. And later, when Professor K. Swaminathan used to discuss poetry of great English authors like Shakespeare and Keats, Bhagavan rejoiced and said, "Oh, there seems to be Upanishads in English too, just like how we have Upanishads in Sanskrit, relating to that same great tattva which has been described by the poets." And when he read Shakespeare, Bhagavan Ramana described Shakespeare, who is the self, rejoiced writing these poetry. And to rejoice it again, to enjoy it once again, he has manifested. The self has again manifested like all of us, like you, and it is enjoying these poetry, saying that the self is alone, and that manifests as everything. That manifests as the poet too, and that manifests as the connoisseur who enjoys those poetry too. And Professor K. Swaminathan says that Bhagavan Ramana was the light of knowledge, not from this world, but he was like the sun in the sky, unapproachable but ever available and shining brightly. But with Ramana, in one moment he used to be like the sun of knowledge, and at the next moment, with his motherly love and his human touch and human interaction with every one of us, we used to feel that although he is the sun of knowledge, he has come in the form of the moon so that we can play with him. He has come in the form of the fire so that we can cook our food and enjoy the food. And Bhagavan Ramana, who is the light, quoted from the Bible too. We are celebrating Christmas, and Bhagavan Ramana, who was born the Christmas week, and also one who dropped his body and merged with Arunachala during the Good Friday. He is none other than that light which once incarnated as Jesus Christ has come into our lives as Jesus Christ. And he reiterated these words from the Bible saying, "Be still and know you are God. Father and I are one, and the kingdom of heaven is within you." To teach us these truths, that the kingdom of heaven that we are searching outside in the world is actually within us. And to know that one needs to be still, and to know that we are God, and to understand that the Divine Father and we are not different in essence, but only that idea that we are this body and the mind and the intellect is creating these differences. Understand the truth, be still and know you are God. To reveal this truth to us, Bhagavan Ramana has come as the world teacher, just like Jesus Christ came to this world. And Ganapati Muni praises Ramana and tells all of us to surrender to him so that our darkness of ignorance is removed and we are filled with the light of supreme knowledge. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing of Ramana Ashtottara written by Vishwanatha Swami by Dr. Sarada Natarajan.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana. In this part of the satsang, we are meditating on Vishwanatha Swami's Ramana Ashtottara Shatanama, the 108 names, the litany of 108 names on Bhagavan Ramana. And we have covered the names, the first part of this litany. Bhagavan has arrived at Arunachala and is steeped in what is called the seeming tapas at the Arunachaleshwara temple and at now the Guru Murtam. That's where we see him totally indifferent to all things. Udasinaya namaha, mahayogine namaha, totally indifferent. Bhagavan says that this total indifference is a significant quality of the practitioner of self-enquiry. Nothing should matter. Udasinaya namaha, mahayogine namaha. And it's only really when nothing matters that there can be great enthusiasm for everything. Mahotsahaya namaha. Because in the normal mental frame, there is enthusiasm for certain things and there is indifference to certain other things. We feel tired. We may be very enthusiastic about our practice, but when we do not see success in the practice, success in any area which we are striving to achieve something, then we feel saddened, we feel disappointed. When there is any kind of failure, the utsaha, the excitement, the joy in the endeavor becomes dimmed. But here, when one is completely indifferent to everything, udasina, what happens is that there is a great enthusiasm as well for whatever needs to be done. So he is mahotsaha and he is kushagradhi. Absolutely sharp intellect. Razor sharp. In fact, it is said that the path of self-enquiry is like walking on a razor's edge. That's what they say. The path of jnana is like walking on a razor's edge. And it is said, eternal vigilance is the prize of truth. One cannot afford to lose one's vigilance even for a second. If one loses one's vigilance, then what happens? Then one may get lost in some aspect of the ego or the other without realizing it. It is so subtle. If one loses the spirit of self-enquiry even for a moment, one may get lost for ages. Lost for ages in the darkness, which Sadhu Swami says, Jagamelam Irulmayam. So this Kushagradhi, is also what Bhagavan describes in Arunachala Pancharatnam as the Ati Amaladhi. Ahamiti kutayati iti anvishyantaha pravishtaya ati amaladhiya. With a very pure mind. Only a pure mind, only a pure intellect can be so sharp. Even if we take our spectacles, if it is dusted over, or if there are even some spots here and there, it will color our eyesight, it will dim our eyesight. So the intellect is the spectacles through which we see the entire world. And when it is pure, when it is absolutely amala, at that point of time, it becomes totally sharp as well. No coloring anywhere, nothing that brings about any anxiety and dims the moha, dims the intellect. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Kamad bhavati krodha, krodhat sammoha, sammohat smriti bhramshaha, smriti bhramsho buddhi nashaha. The buddhi, the dhi, gets destroyed, becomes clouded, becomes confused through kama, through desire. And the growing of this desire, which leads to anxiety, anger, confusion, various things. So when Vishwanatha Swami is describing Bhagavan as the Kushagradhi, he is also the Kamari. He is the one who has transcended all desires. Only such a one can have that pure intellect, that sharp intellect, totally uncolored by desire, therefore totally unwavering or unshaken by fear. That Kushagradhi is Bhagavan's the pure, the powerful intellect, which can grasp everything, anything and everything, but is not interested. Because it's not interested, because of the udasinatva, which we saw, Vishwanatha Swami has put that earlier. Udasina. Then Mahotsaha, then Kushagradhi. In this order in which he has cast the Ramana Ashtottaram, he indicates to us that the Mahotsaha and the Kushagradhi are products of that Udasinatva, the total indifference to the body, the total indifference to the identity. Bhagavan would sometimes even sternly say, people think the Swami does not know anything because he is sitting in his couch in the room, in the hall. But the moment somebody enters, their mind is an open book. Their entire life would be known to Bhagavan without having to even bother to know about it. With that entire Udasinatva, he would know. Not that he would reveal. But such is the sharp intellect of Bhagavan. And we find the Ganapati Muni says that this sharp intellect is revealed to us sometimes when we see how his poetic works are. Muruganar fell in love with Bhagavan on reading the Aksharamanamalai. Ujwal was just sharing with us that Professor Swaminathan wondered about Muruganar's poetry. Muruganar wondered about Bhagavan's poetry. Who but Shiva can write this Aksharamanamalai, he thought. And Ganapati Muni talks about the Arunachala Pancharatnam, that composition of Bhagavan, in the rare Arya meter in Sanskrit. He says, crowds of brilliant ideas will trail behind the choice words. Muni says the words will be waiting for Bhagavan to use them. Thoughts, words, the intellect, that is serving the jnana, serving that supreme jnani who is Bhagavan. And this is the power of the Sarvajna, the Jnani, the Kushagradhi. Yet what does he do with his intellect? The sharp intellect. Is it of any use to him? Does he move through this sharp intellect? Bhagavan says, even about the sadhaka, he tells Humphreys, when you start doing self-enquiry, don't imagine that it is going to be a rosy path. Don't imagine that you are going to hit self-awareness right away. It is subtle, it is difficult. It may take years to experience. But there will be signs in your practice. It's a very strange, beautiful way Bhagavan says. He says there will be signs of progress. But he says these signs will be unconscious. There will be, it will manifest, he says. He doesn't say there is a sign of progress. It will manifest as unconscious power to deal with people and events. So that is, what is that? That is the sharpening of the intellect, the power to deal with people and events. When the intellect becomes sharp, it becomes intuitive as well. It is ready, it is agile. It is not holding on to anything. It is ready to move from moment to moment. That is the Kushagrati. And Bhagavan says that power is given even to one who is practicing self-enquiry, practicing self-abidance. He tells Humphreys that. But he says it will be unconscious power. And what about the jnani who has nothing to do, says Bhagavan? Krityamasti kim, he has no interest to start anything, to do anything. But why is he engaged then in activity? Why was Bhagavan there? Why was Bhagavan there seated at Guru Murtam? Why did Bhagavan come even to Arunachala and tell Arunachala, Father, I have come? In total surrender to the purpose of Arunachala. And Vishwanatha Swami says, if Bhagavan was acting, if Bhagavan was moving, even just moving around, even just eating his food, even just remaining in the body, for whose sake? What purpose? He had no purpose at all of his own. And Vishwanatha Swami says over here, Shanta Sankalpa Samrambhaya Namah. The only, if at all, there is any sankalpa in Bhagavan, if there is any motive in Bhagavan, that is the peace itself. That is the peace itself. The peace of the self itself is the motive that itself expresses in action, in the form of Bhagavan, in everything that he begins to do, samrambha, that which he begins to do, every activity of his was rooted in, sprang from, was rooted in, and was because of that peace, of that overwhelming peace of the self. Therefore, we can say that every action of Bhagavan, every moment in Bhagavan's life, whichever slice of Bhagavan's life we may take and do meditate upon, whichever moment of Bhagavan's life we may take and meditate upon, it reflects, it reveals, it radiates the power of the peace of the self. Shanta Sankalpa Samrambha. Not out of any need to achieve anything, not out of any need to get anywhere, not even out of any need to simply do anything at all, not even the need to engage in what is called the daily necessities, not even the need to have food. That once in a day meal was given to him by Palani Swami, the attendant whom Lord Ganesha, as it were, prepared and sent to him to take care of him, not again by his asking, not again by his wanting, but simply Arunachaleshwara took care of him, saw to it that the body remained, and as that sprang from the peace, that is Arunachala, Bhagavan accepted it. Since there was no disturbance in that peace, Bhagavan did not reject anything that came to him. Anything. He did not seek anything. He did not reject anything either. Somebody came, shaved his head. He accepted it. Somebody came, gave him food. He ate it, no matter what it was. Palani Swami came. Before that, Uddandi Nayanar came. Annamalai Thambiran came, took care of him. He accepted it. It is absolute acceptance. Later we find that there are a couple of attendants of Bhagavan who have disturbed the whole ashram in different ways. He accepted that as well. If anyone was disturbed, the boys in the Arunachaleshwara temple, the urchin boys threw stones at him. He accepted it. He went down to the Patala Lingam. From the peace, everything sprang from the peace and the peace alone. His body was bitten by vermin, he accepted it. In the mango grove, he got a space. Before that, in Gurumurtam, he was in a space where people would come. Many people would come. Perhaps it could be seen as a disturbance to his tapas. He did not object. Palani Swami had to take care that they did not disturb him. Then he was given a space in the mango grove where people were not allowed to come. He accepted it. He did not object to the fact that people are not allowed to come. Yet later, we find in Virupaksha cave, when the owners of the cave began to levy a tax to see the Swami, the same peace motivated him not to accept it. He did not object to. Even the protest, we see that Mahatma Gandhi did the non-violent movement, the Satyagraha, which is based in peace. It springs from ahimsa, it springs from peace, and we can see the power behind it, Bhagavan. Shanta Sankalpa Samrambha, established in that supreme peace, unwaveringly established in that supreme peace. In that peace itself, he moved out of Virupaksha cave. He simply moved out and sat outside. He did not object. He did not tell the owners of the Virupaksha cave, don't levy a tax on me. How dare you levy? I am open to everybody. Not the least trace of any turbulence in Bhagavan for anything whatsoever. Always the pure peace. No turbulence. Movement, yes. Action. Later, Bhagavan, in Ramanashram days, we find that he is participating in all the activities of the ashram. Early morning, before the first devotee could be in the kitchen, Bhagavan is in the kitchen. He is cutting vegetables. He is grinding the paste for the idli. He is grinding the chutney. He is reading the proof. He is reading the newspaper. He walks to the Goshala, has a look at all the cows. He helps to build the samadhis of Jackie, the blessed crow, Valli the deer, supervises Cow Lakshmi's samadhi building. He supervises the building of the Matrabhuteshwara temple by walking around it. Actually, he initiated the process of building a wall around the temple, taking bricks from an abandoned brick kiln, forming a row from the brick kiln to the ashram, passing the bricks, getting the wall built, the mud walls. But in everything, no matter what he was doing, or whether he was simply sitting, absolutely unmoving. We see in his film, that archival film, there's a section where we see Bhagavan seated. And it looks like a series of just a still photograph has been just pulled for that length, if we look only at Bhagavan. But we can see it's a movie because there is incense slowly floating in front of his face. But he is still, absolutely still. The depth of the ocean, no movement, nothing. Gabhiram, Ramanam, Gabhiram, Vishwanath Swami said, so deep. And here, Vishwanath Swami is saying that we have been describing his life, and through the Ashtottara we have been celebrating Bhagavan's life. We must not at any point of time forget that the most glorious aspect of his life is that it is peace. It is the self. It is the self, and the self is Sat, the self is peace. And that is what is Bhagavan. And everything that springs from him is peace. Everything that is sustained by him is peace. We often see Bhagavan as the embodiment of bliss. And here, Vishwanatha Swami celebrates him as the very epitome, the pinnacle of peace. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We will continue the satsang with the chanting of Aksharamanamalai by Srimati Radha and Vallabh.
Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. தேடாதுற்றன திருவருள் நிதிய தீயக்கம் தீர்த்தரு அருணாச்சலா தைரியமோடும் உண்மைய நாடையன் தட்டழிந்தேன் அருள் அருணாச்சலாம் தொட்டருட்கைமை கட்டிடாயனிய நட்டமாவேன் அருள் அருணாச்சலா தோடமில் நீயகத்தோடொன்று என்றும் சந்தோடம் ஒன்றிட அருள் அருணாச்சலாம் நகிடமில்லை நின் நாடிய என்னை அருள் நகையிட்டு பாணி அருணாச்சலா நாடிலை நாடிட நானாயொன்றினி தாழுவ நின்றனை அருணாச்சலா நின்னெறி எரித்தனை நீராக்கிடும் முன் நின்னருள் மழை பொழி அருணாச்சலா மீனானர புலி நிதங்களி மயமா நின்றிட நிலை அருள் அருணாச்சலா நுண்ணுரு உன்னையான் விண்ணுரு நன்னிட எண்ணலையிருமெந்தருணாச்சலா நூலறிவறியா பேதையன் எந்தன் மாலறிவர் தருள் அருணாச்சலா நெக்கு நெக்குருகியான் பொக்கிட உன்னை புகழ் நக்கனா நின்றனை அருணாச்சலா நேசமில் எனக்கு உன் ஆசையை காட்டி நீ மோசம் செய்யாத அருள் அருணாச்சலாம் அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா 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 அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சலம் வாழி அன்பர்களும் வாழி அக்ஷரமணமாலை வாழி. நமோ ரமணா.
Namo Ramana. We will conclude today's satsang with the Ashtottara puja to Bhagavan. The Ashtottara puja will be done at Ramana Maharshi's Heritage Auditoriums, Ramana Maharshi Heritage Center's Meditation Hall. The Ashtottara chanting will be done by Revathi Shankar and Uma and Ashwini. The puja will be done by Ujwal Jagadeesh. This will be concluded by the Arati song by Pratibha Sundaresh. भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावली अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशेः यस्योर्मि मात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि. ॐ महासेन महोंशेन जाताय नमः. ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः. ॐ गुरवे नमः. ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः. ॐ महौजसे नमः. ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः. ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः. ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः. ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः. ॐ सुन्दरार्य तपःफल फलाय नमः। ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः। ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः। ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ फुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजतचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्यनिभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः।
Shri Ramana Bhagavate Namaha. Shri Ashtottara Shatanama Pujam Samarpayami. Yasthano Arunachalasya Padayoho Snutya Janim Prapyata Divyanugraha Supravaha Vivashas Tadatmya Bhavam Gataha Pranishtasvagabhira Nitya Tapasa Lokan Punasyekarat Tasmai Shri Ramanaya Tasmai Shri Ramanaya Te Namaidam Lokottara Jyotishe. Namo 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 Ramana Sadashiva Prabhavarna Namo Maharshi Namo Maharshi Darshana Sukha Mangala Mukha Sakala Jiva Hita Sammukha Brahma Sangiye Sada Tushta Sada Rishta Sada Shivananda Pushta Parama Maharshi Brahmanishta Samadarshi Namo 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 Raman Sadashiva Prabhavarna Namo Maharshi Namo Maharshi Namma Manavadondu Kadu Nirarite Adara Jadu Hitavanaritu Nidu Temma Koreya Tanisalai Pedalendo Bandanavu Nodiye Tanivevaya Modigarane Hitavanuridu Pure Nammanu Brahma Sangiye Namo 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 Ramana Sadashiva Prabhavarna Namo Maharshi Namo Maharshi Guru Bhagavan Shri Ramana Maharshi ki